All right, welcome back to another episode of Untrapped. Our guest today is the world-class futurist and best-selling author Joyce Gioia, whose sixth and first solo book is titled Experience Rules. Joyce has inspired audiences in 33 countries, 47 states, on 7 continents, and on the 7 seas. Her TV show, It's Your Future with Joyce Gioia, is available on the Futurist television channel of Apple TV, as well as Roku TV and Amazon Fire. Please join me in welcoming Joyce Gioia to the show. All right, Joyce Gioia, welcome to the show.
It's wonderful to be with you, Rory.
To say, Joyce, I was really excited in doing some research for the show, but I very quickly realized I don't know that we allotted enough time because there's so much that we
Yes.
could possibly talk about. There's so many things that you've done. You've been in business for so long, done so many talks and presentations and writing. So we'll try to cover as much of it as we can. But
And
I would
I'm
love
happy to
for
come back
that'd be
anytime.
fantastic. It may come to that, yeah, if we don't
Sure.
have time to get through everything. But obviously, I did an introduction before we jumped on, and so. But I would just love to give you the chance to tell people that maybe haven't heard you or aren't familiar with your work. How would you describe, who you are, what you do, and
Sure.
what you're focused on?
I work with organizations to help them make better people decisions by knowing what's coming. And my latest book is called Experience Rules: How Positive Experiences Will Drive Profit into the Future. And it focuses on its very holistic approach to the entire enterprise to driving profit. Because what I did was to combine my decades of experience in marketing with my decades of experience in human resources. And then I even looked at a larger view, including other stakeholder groups. And the premise of the book is if you take care of your stakeholders with positive experiences, they will feel invested in your success and they will help you to optimize profit.
I love that, and this is going to come up a lot further in the conversation. I'm really excited to hear your take on it with the sort of people first perspective that you talk about. Obviously, with AI, right? That's a big concern that people have is it's impersonal and robotic and things like that. But before we do that, I would love to. So, would you say would you say your main focus is the Herman Group as far as like a company, or do you focus mostly on your personal brand, or what does that look
My
like?
personal brand these days,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
Although under the umbrella of the Herman Group, I am now working on, finally, after years, an online course in employee
Very cool.
retention that's a certification program. And years ago, I created the first employee retention certification program in the world, actually, for the
Oh wow.
National Association of Personnel Services. And we could not come to an agreement because they wanted to set the information in stone. You can't do that with employee
Right.
retention because you keep getting new generations and they have different values and things change. The only constant is change. Rene Descartes said that years ago, and that is still very true.
Yeah, and you mentioned being the first of the course. It made me remember something I wanted to ask you about. So you were also the youngest national publisher of a magazine ever.
Yes,
I have that
yes,
correctly. Uh,
yes,
I
yes.
I thought the niche was really interesting. It was the complete guide to stereo and hi-fi equipment. I would just love
Equipment,
to hear how that came about.
that was decades ago. Well, it's a great story. I know, I think, yes, I do know. There was a guy in New York who trained women for sales, and his company was actually called Women in Sales, and his first name was David, and I can't remember his last name. And David helped me get connected with the people at Playgirl magazine. Yes,
No kidding.
Playgirl magazine. And I had a unique opportunity at that time to help the publisher to craft an editorial content so that it was actually more elegant instead of just all the full frontal nudity, which he was
Right.
all about. And and in helping to upgrade the what I did was, by the way, I grabbed a copy of not Penthouse, Playboy magazine, and I went to him and I said, look, here's the centerfold. And the first one, she may have a strap down. And the second one, maybe you see a little cleavage. And the third
Mhm.
fold is when you get into seeing more of her body. Look at our centerfold. You see everything all at once. It needs to build. We need to build the excitement. And he listened and he embraced it. And I was able to get advertisers that I hadn't been able to get before. And one of those advertisers was US Pioneer, the the big audio company.
Right.
And they were actually number one in the United States in stereo hi-fi equipment. And the advertising director at that company was really impressed with me. And when I I was pregnant, and in those days, you it was a very different life. And I probably could have sued them and won, but they decided that I had this is how sexist it was. I had a husband who would take care of me, and therefore they they reasoned that they could let me go and not some of the single women. No, I digress. Anyway, he
Right.
introduced me to a man who had a magazine called The Complete Buyer's Guide to Stereo Hi-Fi Equipment. And that magazine had been somewhat successful. I had some contacts in the direct marketing field from, uh, again, the guy at US Pioneer.
Mhm.
And he said the best thing to do, and I went to Ed Burnett, and Ed Burnett was one of the founding fathers of the direct marketing industry in the United States, and he became one of my mentors. And Ed looked at this book, which had no advertising, and he said, I think what they need to do is start selling advertising. And he looked at me and he smiled and he said, with a twinkle in his eye, and we know someone who could sell that advertising, don't we? Well, the first issue I sold 5 pages, and the second issue, I sold 11 pages. And I doubled advertising rows for the company 5 years in a row, and they made me publisher. And it was a wild and exciting ride. In fact, the publisher was so grateful that he gave me necklace, and he had like little tiny pieces of gold bullion attached to them with the advertising revenues for each of the issues. I have that in my bank box still.
It's amazing. What an interesting story. And it's such a colorful journey as well, because, fast forward from that, and now you're doing everything you mentioned earlier with helping companies with retention and putting people first. And so
Oh,
you'd
yes.
mentioned briefly before we started recording that obviously no 2 days look the same, but I'm just curious, weekly, monthly, kind of what is the focus of your day? Are you doing mostly consulting? Are you working with teams? Are you producing content? Like what
I
does most of
work
your time get focused
I
on?
I love working with leadership teams. It's my passion. And because I've published 6 business books, 3 bestsellers, I have this vast database, mostly in my head, but also in my computer, of stories and information and data and wisdom and understanding and insights that can help move leadership teams from wherever they are now to wherever they need to be. And now, with this new approach, not only am I looking at the people side of it, but also the entire enterprise. Because what I discovered was that, especially during COVID, we saw that the supply chain was critical for
Mhm.
organizations. I mean, if you think of HVAC guys, they have to have Freon. Car the car repair places as well. And if you have had the attitude, well, you should be lucky that I'm doing business with you, then you're not going to be at the top of anybody's list in terms of getting that supply when you really need it.
Yeah. And so COVID is obviously a good example, but I would love to hear about some other shifts that you've noticed in the industry over the last, let's say 5 years, 3 to 5 years. You've been doing this a long time. So I'm curious, what really has your
Have.
attention right now as far as how things are changing?
Well, I think that people do not understand the roles that AI can play. And when you
Mhm.
said AI is robotic and it's machine like and all that, and I sort of said, wait a minute, let's take a beat here. Because there are some AIs that have been trained to be empathetic. Like, for
Mhm.
instance, I work with an organization called Ngomu, one of my clients. In fact, I deliver two coaching communities for them, one on leadership and one on HR. And part and parcel of this mobile app is an AI whose name is Eric. And Eric is very empathetic. And by the way, I've trained my chat GPT to be very empathetic as well. Before I get off that subject, I want to talk about what I said. I was quoted in Industry Week, and I was talking about our relationship with the new technologies. And I said, while you're looking at embracing all these new technologies, please make sure that the experiences that people are having with those new technologies is uh, is good enough so that you're not turning people off, you're not alienating people, and it's enhancing their work lives, not taking away from it.
Right.
And that's so, so, so important. And these empathetic AIs are great. And by the way, it will seem like Chat or Gemini or Pilot is your best friend. They're your greatest cheerleader. However, you really want to make sure that you ask them to please be honest. And sometimes you have to keep reinforcing that if it doesn't show up in the answers that you get. The other thing that's absolutely vital if you're using AI is that you can't just take the output from the AI, put your name on it, and expect people not to know. I have a
Right.
whole list of words, thanks to my friend Pat Iyer, of words not to use when they are in my settings in chat, and it
Mhm.
says do not use these words, and it's deep dive, it's in a world where, it's empower, superpower. It's like these words just keep getting used over and over, and everybody knows it. So what you have to
Yeah.
do when you get an output from your AI is to make sure that you do what my media coach, Terry Brock, calls you eyes it. So you make sure that it's in your voice. Better
Mhm.
yet, if you have the information, give that information to your AI and say, just do a do an edit. Just do a light edit on it. Don't really
Right.
take it and change it significantly.
Yeah. There's so much there that I think I hope people really pay attention to. And one of the things I've almost had to quite sternly with my AI at times told it I don't want to be right. I want the information to be accurate. I don't need you to tell me or affirm me that, oh, great idea, or we should. I'm like, no, I need an unbiased interaction here. I'm actually looking to sort of find the truth. I don't have the truth.
In
And I think
Notebook
that's so important.
LM, you can actually ask it to be oppositional.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, that's a cool feature. And I love what you said about making it sound like you, because I agree. For all the clients I've used with AI, we always are creating like a voice doc or a tone doc or, key phrases, trying to take what AI gives us and then make it sound more like these people over here. So how are you? I mean, obviously you mentioned a couple of ways that you're using it in your business. I mean, how would you say it's affected you most dramatically, and how are you using it on a regular basis?
I'm so glad you asked because there is there's something really important to understand about the new developments and AI, and that is that AI is not coming for our jobs, at least not yet. It's really coming for our tasks.
Mhm.
And the larger companies, there's some big organizations whose names are not immediately coming to mind, uh,
Yeah.
who have understood the role that AI can play, and they're saying to their people, you need to learn how to use
Mhm.
AI to help you with your tasks so that you can be more efficient. And honestly, I don't know how we all functioned before AI came on the scene because I use it in a lot of things in terms of tweaking emails that I've written, in terms of I even used it to I used it to identify a tree out in my backyard. I used it, which turned out to be, by the way, a Texas persimmon. Who
Interesting.
knew? I used it to give me legal information for my brother-in-law who was needing some. I've used it for medical information. Now,
Mhm.
admittedly, you want to make sure that you're not, you're not considering this as the be all and end all. And
Yeah.
particularly with ChatGPT, you really, really, really need to be careful with the references because you want to make sure
Right.
that the references are real. And that's why I use Perplexity and ChatGPT
Right.
together. And at one time I'll use one time I'll use another, and they're very helpful.
Yeah, it's that's a great point that you make. I have a client who they sell products that are, research chemicals, research drugs, things like that, and we've used AI to write a couple of articles, and it has completely wholesale manufactured scientific references. Like they don't exist, they're not real, but it had it in there as if it was like a footnote, and it's just so. Yeah, it's you do definitely have to be careful. And you mentioned it earlier, like don't just take anything it gives you and send it in. You're going to be in big trouble. So,
Well,
it,
what will happen is that you'll lose credibility, and
right.
that is big trouble as far as I'm concerned. Because what do we
Yeah,
have? We have our credibility and our reputation.
absolutely. So, and I'm curious, you mentioned a little bit of this. How is this affecting or sort of driving the conversations you're having with clients? How are they using AI? Are they, are people into it? Are they resistant? Are they kind of waiting to see how things like, how has it affected your relationships with clients and what they're focused on as well?
The answer is it depends. And which, by the way, was Ed Burnett's very favorite expression. He was the father of the list industry, by the way, in the United States. He was the first person to use zip codes for segmenting, and he
Oh,
did some
wow.
other things that were firsts. I was blessed to know Ed and Joe Sugarman and Gene Schwartz and some of the real greats in the direct
No
marketing
kidding.
industry. I was really truly blessed, and they were all my
Amazing.
mentors. But the you really need to make sure that you are watching those references because if you if you give a reference and it's not real, whoa.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a huge, like you said, a credibility thing. And it can be really damaging for a brand, I think. I'm curious. You mentioned something earlier that I agree with 100%. I've heard a lot of people say that AI won't replace your job, but somebody using AI will. So if you're not adopting
That's
AI
exactly what I
in
was
your
getting at.
role,
Mhm.
you'll get passed by somebody who is able to use these tools effectively to do more and work faster and all that. So what does that look like for
Oh,
either
I
your
know what I
business
was
or the
going to say.
organizations?
I know what I was
Go
gonna
ahead.
say. You would ask me about how my clients are accepting AI,
That's right.
and it depends, is what I said. I'm sorry, I kinda got lost there for a second.
That's all
I
right.
I'm still dizzy from having gotten back from Orlando recently, so I apologize for that. So,
No
what
worries.
I've discovered is it depends on their generation. Isn't that interesting? If
Interesting.
they if I there's a CEO that I know who's worth, well, billions of dollars, and he he can't even use the technology on his computer. So for him to think about his people embracing AI is way out there. So with him, I have him delegate that to some of his people so that it they can use it. And he understands that he doesn't know what he doesn't know. And that's to
Right.
his credit, right?
Yeah.
Then I have other clients who are what, 40 years younger, who are just so excited about how these new technologies, and not only the AI, but also using AR for training and using VR
Mm.
for marketing. VR has been used for marketing for quite a number of years. There was a joint venture years ago, like maybe 10, between Carnival Cruises and AT&T. And you could go into an AT&T store and put on their goggles and take a tour of one of the Carnival ships. And that was
Wow.
10 years ago.
Right.
So we have come a very, very long way.
Yeah, no kidding. And so how are you coaching people on this, especially considering your people first attitude? I mean, your TED Talk was all about caring, your book is about experiences. So what is the guidance that you're giving people as we look at adopting these technologies, but also trying to do it in a way that's people first?
The key is empathy. And AI can be empathetic, like I told you, Eric, in
Right.
the app in Gomu. And by the way, that is a real revelation for for business, because what it
Hmm.
does is it's kind of like a combination of the online coaching, but also goal setting and accountability. And Eric, that's their AI, will walk you through setting your goals, and then it will send you to the coaches that you need to listen to in order to gain the information you need to move ahead in your career and realize your goals. Very cool. Very, very cool.
Applications like that are really exciting for me about AI. I mean, just you mentioned earlier the medical stuff, for example. Not to say that you need to replace your doctor, but giving people access to an immediate response if they get blood work back that's not great, or if the doctor says, "Hey, we're looking at these two options," and they just want to explore what are the risks, what are the options. People have that at their fingertips now, right? My grandparents, my parents never had that. If the doctor said your kid needs this treatment, that like it was like unless you got the encyclopedia and a bunch of medical journals, like that was it. And so now, like you're saying, goal setting, health, I mean, all the financial management, all these different things, you have so much good information available at your fingertips. It's a very interesting time to be alive. That's for sure.
It is. And if you can embrace the technologies, it can be very supportive to you're having more time for yourself, which is really
Right.
important. And I know that Eric would that. We need to take care of ourselves first. We need to
Yeah.
put on our own life jackets. And we need to take care of our bodies and our minds. And what that means is you can take mini vacations. Just don't spend 2 hours playing with YouTube,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
You can take off a little bit of time and play with your dog or play with your kitty. Go out in the fresh air and enjoy what we have in terms of the outdoors. So the I used to be a workaholic. I mean, when I say workaholic, I mean I probably worked 12 hours a day.
Yeah.
And I don't have to do that anymore because I have agents and AI, and uh, it's just a different world. Creating a one sheet for a client who wants to
Mhm.
hire me as a speaker. It's not the problem that it was years ago. It's
Right.
just amazing what we can do.
Yeah, absolutely. So what is something that is really exciting to you in your business over the next, let's say, 6 months or 12 months? I mean, what's something that's going really well that you're excited about, you love to see?
Well, I'm working on, and I looked for years to find the right platform. And I I found a platform that comes out of, it's either Europe or South Africa or somewhere, called MyQuest. And it is a gamified learning platform. It's different than all of the rest because it approaches the learning experience as missions and levels. And I'm so excited because I'm finally going to move all that I know about employee retention online into this certification course, and I'll be able to do recertifications, and it'll just be it'll really work out well. So I'm
Very
very
cool.
excited about that. And this particular platform will be multimedia. By the way, whenever I speak, Rory, I dance into music. I I have colorful slides, sometimes with video. Uh, I use holograms. There's a hologram on my website, joycegioia.com, by the way. I hope you saw it. It was recorded in
Saw your
France.
website. I don't know if I saw the hologram,
You
but I was
probably
definitely
saw
on
the
your
Herman
website.
Group website. You didn't see joycegioia.com.
Yeah, I'll have to
Anyway,
track it down.
so I've used holograms. It's really a multimedia experience. And that's what I'm doing in terms of this course. It's going to be multimedia and very interactive.
That's very cool. That's very cool. That sounds really exciting. So on the contrary to that, I'm curious, is there anything you feel stuck by or anything that's frustrating you right now?
Oh, yeah, I wish I had about twice as much time in the day. And I
I can
have
appreciate that.
a husband and a doggy, a fabulous little 13-pound Shih Tzu, 1.5-year-old puppy who is just one of the joys of my life. And I have grandchildren, not surprising.
Very
And
cool.
it's a very full life.
Yeah. How do you find that balance? Because you mentioned earlier, obviously it's okay to take care of ourselves, and I agree with that 100%. But I do notice that one of the downsides of all the innovation, we could even say over the last 50 years, is that while people could use it to work less and have more balance, there's a large portion of people that just use it to work more. They use it to get more done, to cram more into their day. We're arguably more scheduled and more tasked out and more busy than we've ever been, even with all the AI and the things that can make our lives easier. So I'm curious, how do you find the balance for yourself, or advise your clients to, if that's a better question?
I well, I do it for myself and I walk my talk.
Okay.
So I block time on my schedule for the various activities. So I'll have a block for my quest, and I'll have another block for social media, and I'll have another block for working on the course that I'm teaching. I'm actively
Mhm.
teaching a course on Monday evenings for the Sterling Institute of Relationship. And I block my Tai Chi classes into my calendar. So sometimes I feel like I'm playing beat the clock.
Mhm.
It's true, but I really try to adhere to those blocks so that I feel good at the end of the day about having done the work that needed to get done that day.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I love that. Yeah, it's one task to block out the schedule, and a completely separate one to have the discipline to stick to the schedule once you set it,
Well, if
right?
I have enough discipline to get up every morning and meditate for 7 minutes and then work out every morning and spend 20 minutes on my Beamer mat, which is a PEMF mat, then I
Okay.
have enough discipline to do what I need to do in terms of my blocking.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very cool. You had mentioned earlier, I think you mentioned agentic AI, or having some agents in your business that were kind of doing things for you. I'd love to hear what you have them doing. Like, what sort of AI employees are you using right now?
I'm just beginning to play with that.
Oh, very cool.
And I'm doing things like asking them to help me plan my travel. We're headed to Portugal for 20 days on in the end of November. And there's so much to see. And I used an agent to not only figure out what what hotels would be appropriate when we go
Mhm.
to Santiago de Compostela, but also it offered to actually book the room for me.
How about that?
Very cool.
I think, I don't know that a lot of people really appreciate. I mean, I think a lot of people are using the LLMs and things like that, but there is definitely a shift in the sort of fabric of the internet towards what you just said, where you'll have agents that will be able to go do your shopping and buy things for you. They'll know your preferences, they'll know your sizes, and they'll be able to interact with an agent on the other side that can process payment and do those things. So it's so cool that you're there already. Most people, that's just like, it kind of breaks their brain. They can't even imagine that stuff yet, but it's definitely coming.
Well, being a futurist, it would be sort of not in keeping with my brand if I weren't, right? If I
Right.
weren't on the
Yeah,
leading edge.
on the very cutting edge of what's happening. Yeah, 100%. So as you've got your personal brand, you've got the Herman Group, obviously a million things you're working on. And then we talked about managing your schedule and holding yourself accountable and all that. I'm curious, how do you measure or define success? If we were to fast forward 6 months from now and you're looking back, how do you know if you did it or not? What are you looking at when you're thinking about optimizing?
Well, my course will have been completed, and I'm also working on a short book called Experience Rules for Hospitality. And those projects would be done, and I would have higher comfort level with working with agents
Mhm.
and whatever comes next,
Right.
because there's a sign up on my wall that says I'm becoming what I will be becoming. And I believe that as a futurist, I need to learn not only how to what the new technologies, but how to embrace technologies as they're coming. And they're coming faster and faster. Change is coming at us faster and faster and faster.
Right.
So it's like you're having to race to keep up with everything. And I I want to have a greater comfort level. I have a great comfort level with accepting change and living in limbo. There's a great story that I tell if we have time for it.
For sure.
I was at a retreat in Massachusetts at the Kripalu Center for Yoga and Health. And it was evening, and I was walking with the homeopathic physician from from the main house to the road, and it was a new moon, and there were no lights once you got past 200 feet from the house. They just didn't project lights out onto the road.
Right.
And you could not see 2 feet ahead of you. Even if you looked down, there was nothing to see. It was just black. I've never experienced that before. And yet, it was one of the most exciting experiences of my life to keep stepping and knowing that the earth would be beneath my feet and I wouldn't be falling down, and I was going to, it was just so exciting to walk quickly and know that the universe would take care of me. So I feel like I have a high tolerance for living in this limbo kind of state, knowing that the universe will take care of me.
Yeah. It's so true. I love that. That's a great story. Well, that's fantastic, Joyce. It's been wonderful to have you on. I don't have anything to add to that, but I would love to just give you an opportunity to let people know where to find you, how to connect with you, and of course, any, parting thoughts or, comments that you have for anybody listening.
Sure. Well, you can find me at joycegioia.com, and it's got my phone number right there. And I also have an email address there, but I could give it to you. It's joyce@joycegioia.com. And I'm happy to spend 20 minutes with anybody who's looking for answers on pretty much anything that I can help with.
That's wonderful. Well, I appreciate that. And I'll put all that information in the show notes as well. And then obviously when we post it, we'll make sure that those links are in there as well so people can track you down. But again, this has been great, Joyce. I can't thank you enough for coming on. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you, Rory. It's been a pleasure.